Let's listen.
Shh.
Hello, dear listeners. I'm Ben, and today I have a wonderful story for you. Nils and Oskar switch dreams. Pia will tell you how a boy and his cat wake up in each other's bodies and see the world in a brand new way. Get cozy, maybe with a blanket, and perk up your ears. Pia will begin in a moment with her magical storytelling.
Hello, little dreamers. I'm Pia, and I'm so happy to share a playful tale about a boy named Nils and his curious cat, Oskar. Tonight's story is about listening, learning, and looking with someone else's eyes, or whiskers. Imagine soft paws, quick tails, and a heart that wants to understand. Snuggle in, let your thoughts tiptoe, and enjoy every moment. Have fun listening. Nils and his cat Oskar shared a small room with a big window. At night, silver moonlight made stripes on the floor, like tiger paths. Nils whispered, "Good night, Oskar," and Oskar replied with a warm purr. Sleep tiptoed in, soft as a feather. Then something wonderfully odd happened. Their dreams crossed like two ribbons in the air. Whoosh! Nils dreamed he leapt like a cat, light as a leaf. Oskar dreamed he ran like a boy, shoes thumping, arms swinging, grin wide. Can you picture that swish swish? Step, step, swish, swish, whiskers, whish. The moon nodded once, as if it knew a secret, and the stars twinkled, blink, blink, like tiny eyes that love surprises. Morning popped like toast. Nils stretched and felt paws. He blinked and saw the world low and wide, bright and sharp. Meow, he squeaked, startled by his own meow. On the bed, Oskar sat up and yawned a boy-sized yawn. He stared at his hands, wiggled his fingers, and gasped, "I have thumbs." His voice was Nils's voice, and that made him giggle, snort, hiccup. Nils tried walking, but did a wobbly wobble on 4. Oskar tried standing tall and almost tripped on the blanket. They looked at each other, boy in cat's body, cat in boy's body, and burst into amazed laughter. "We switched," Nils meowed. "We switched," Oskar said, eyes round as breakfast eggs. They shuffled to the mirror. Nils, now furry, saw a tabby face with golden eyes and twitchy whiskers. He lifted one paw. "Tap," the mirror cat tapped back. "That's me," he whispered, and the whiskers tickled his words. Oskar, now tallish and wobbly, pressed his new hand to the glass and grinned. "Hello, human Oskar," he said, trying out a serious voice, then a silly one. He stood on tiptoes, then heels, testing balance like a seesaw. Nils padded in a circle. The rug was rough. The air smelled like soap, dust, and something delicious. Was that toast? His ears turned like tiny dishes, catching sounds from every corner. "I can hear the hallway clock blink," he mewed. "Blink, tick, blink, tock. What a shock." In the kitchen, Oskar as Nils tried to pour milk and almost poured it onto the table. He giggled and tried again. Nils as Oskar hopped onto a chair, then the table, then, oops, his tail flicked into the butter. "Oops-a-tail," he meowed. Oskar leaned close. "Is it strange being low to the ground?" Nils sniffed. "It's like the world is a forest of chair legs and socks. And smells are big. The toast smells warm and crunchy from across the room." Oskar wrinkled his nose. "I never smell that far." Nils licked a paw thoughtfully. "And your socks smell like adventures." Oskar laughed. "Then I must be a very brave sock explorer." They both smiled, feeling less scared, more curious. They opened the window. Fresh air flowed in, cool and grassy. A sparrow landed on the sill and chirped a tiny, busy song. Nils's ears perked. The chirps made sense. "Breadcrumbs, please, feather friends. Hurry, hurry," the sparrow sang. "I understand you," Nils whispered. The sparrow tilted his head. "Cat with boy heart, you hear us?" Then listen. People forget we notice everything. Oskar blinked. What did he say? Nils translated, giggling when the sparrow scolded a cloud for drifting too slowly. Oskar waved and the sparrow hopped, bold now. Boy with cat soul, chirped the bird to Oskar. Walk gentle. Big feet scare little lives. Oskar glanced at his toes and nodded. Gentle steps, he promised. Heel toe, whisper soft. They went to the garden. It smelled like wet dirt and lemony leaves. Nils slipped under the gate with whisker width space to spare. Oskar opened it with a clack, because thumbs are good at gates. Nils crouched low and felt the earth's heartbeat, thump, thump, beneath his paws. A snail inched by. Hello, slow traveller, Nils mewed. The snail lifted his soft face. Hello, Whisker Walker, please don't step on small homes. Nils bowed. Oskar knelt and watched a line of ants carry a crumb the size of a mountain to them. They're so strong, he whispered. We're strong together, said the ants. Oskar smiled. Like friends carrying a big idea. Nils's tail curled. Maybe the big idea is how to switch back. They met a wise old oak who whispered whenever the wind brushed his branches. Switching back, the oak murmured like pages turning. Try the listening ladder. Climb with care. Listen to paws. Listen to hands. Listen to hearts. Nils tilted his furry head. How do we listen to hearts? The oak groaned kindly, by being brave enough to be quiet. Oskar traced the bark with his new fingers and felt tiny bumps and lines. We can do that, he said. The oak's leaves shivered. Happy shki. At sunset, stand where light makes long shadows. Share one wish with the moon, but spend your day learning each other's steps. Nils and Oskar glanced at each other, half nervous, half excited. We will, they said together. Oskar practiced gentle walking, heel, toe, hush, so the sparrows wouldn't scatter. He carried a saucer of water for the snail and placed it near a shady stone. Thank you, Bigfoot Careful, bubbled the snail. Nils practiced cat skills. He tried balancing on the fence. Step, step, wobble, wibble, whoa! He landed in a bush with a soft foof of leaves and popped out with a green mustache. Oskar laughed until he hiccuped. Nils grinned. Cats make mistakes too, he meowed. A squirrel chattered. Try again. Tail up, look far. Nils lifted his tail like a flag, looked to the end of the fence, and walked more smoothly. I did it, he purred, proud and purry. See? Said Oskar. Practice is a kind of magic we can all do. They passed the schoolyard. Oskar as Nils waved at friends. Hey, you're quiet today, one friend called. Oskar remembered the oak's ladder. He listened to hands. He saw chalky fingers holding a jump rope, a scabbed knuckle, a tiny scrape. Do you need a bandage? He asked softly. The friend blinked and smiled. Thanks. Oskar felt warm inside, like a lamp switched on. Nils as Oskar watched a boy sitting alone on the steps. The boy's shoelaces were loose. Nils padded over and tapped his ankle. Tap, tap. The boy looked down. Hi, kitty, he whispered, and tied his shoes. Nils listened to the boy's sigh and heard a story about missing a friend. He rubbed his head against the boy's knee. You are not unseen, his purr said. At the market, scents danced everywhere. Peppery greens, sweet strawberries, warm bagels. Nils's whiskers quivered, tasting the air. The world smells like a storybook, he mewed. Oskar held a bag carefully and practiced kindness with thumbs. He held doors, stacked apples gently, and wrote a small note. Thank you for the fresh bread. The baker read it and chuckled, then gave Oskar a sample. Cinnamon twist? Oskar savoured the bite. Soft, sugary, spicy. He handed a tiny crumb to Nils, who purred at the taste, sweet as a summer secret. Sharing makes yum yummier, Nils said. They both learned a line on the listening ladder. When you share, your heart grows roomier, like a pocket that can hold more friends. On the bus home, Oskar, as Nils found standing up, felt like wobbling on a jelly floor. He held the pole and practiced steady breaths. In, out, in, out. Nils, as Oskar curled on the seat and listened to shoe sounds. Stompers, sliders, tip-tappers. A little girl dropped her hat. Oskar bent to pick it up and handed it to her with a smile. "Thank you," she said, hugging it close. Nils watched a tiny dog peek from a carrier. The dog barked in whispers, "Crowded, crowded, keep me safe." Nils blinked slow, a cat's friendly hello, and the dog's ears relaxed. Oskar grinned. "You're good at calming friends," he said. Nils purred. "You're good at helping hands." Their hearts hummed together, like two strings making one bright note. Back home, they made a plan for sunset. "The oak said to listen to hearts," Oskar reminded. "Let's share what we felt today." Nils needed a cushion. Pat, 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 pat. Being you felt tall and tippy, people looked at your face to know what you meant. It was big and brave. Oskar nodded slowly. Being you felt quick and quiet. The world spoke in tiny sounds, like the snail's soft footsteps and the sparrow's crumb song. It was gentle and clever. Nils's tail curled like a question mark. "Do you think we were sometimes too loud for animals?" Oskar thought. "Sometimes, yes, but we can change our steps, softer soft." They smiled, learning another rung on the ladder. Careful steps show big love. The sun slipped lower, painting the yard gold. Long shadows stretched like friendly giants. "Ready?" Oskar asked. "Ready," said Nils. They stood where light made their shapes touch, a boy's shadow holding a cat's shadow paw. Together, they closed their eyes and breathed. The oak murmured, "Quiet now." Nils whispered, "Moon, we learn to listen." Oskar whispered, "We learn to share and care." They felt the day settle around them like a soft blanket. A breeze brushed their cheeks and whiskers. Somewhere, a bat squeaked a tiny map of the sky. The first star pricked the blue like a silver pin. Their wish gathered itself, gentle and sure, to switch back and to keep the kindness they had found. Bedtime came with hushes and shivers of leaves. Nils curled into a circle, tail to nose, and Oskar stretched long like a sleepy noodle. "Thank you for today," Oskar said. Nils purred back, "Thank you for your hands and your careful steps." They closed their eyes. The room filled with the soft sounds of night. Tick-tock, breeze-breathe, purr-hum. The moon slid a silver thread through the window. It touched Nils's ear and Oskar's cheek. The thread tugged, tugged, like a tiny tugboat pulling two sleepy ships. Their dreams unwound and rewove. Switch, swish, stitch, stitch, good night, good switch. Can you feel the gentle tug in your own heart, dear listener? Like a promise that understanding always finds its way home. Morning again. And this time, Nils stretched and felt hands. His hands. He wiggled all 10 fingers and laughed. Oskar shook out his fur and pounced happily. They had switched back, but something stayed. Nils's steps were softer, and his eyes looked lower, noticing tiny lives. Oskar's paws were kinder. He rubbed against ankles that needed comfort, and meowed when things were too loud. "We're still us," Nils said, "but bigger on the inside." Oskar answered with a deep, rolling purr that sounded like yes. At breakfast, Nils shared crumbs with sparrows on the sill. "Thank you, boy with listening heart," they chirped. Nils smiled. "We learned together," he said. And the day began bright and brave, with room for every small voice to be heard.